I was at a literary gathering in Petersburg. 20 writers, all trying to prove they were the smartest person in the room. I was 23 years old and I thought I was brilliant. I had just published my first novel and I was drunk on my own intelligence. I interrupted a famous critic mid-sentence to correct him on a point of philosophy. The room went silent. He looked at me with those cold eyes and said 3 sentences that destroyed me in front of everyone. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't insult me. He simply stated facts about my work that I couldn't deny. Facts I had been too intelligent to see myself. And I watched every person in that room reassess me. Watched my reputation crumble in real time. That humiliation taught me something crucial. Intelligence without wisdom is just a sharper knife to cut yourself with. And if you're watching this video, if the title pulled you here, you already know what I'm talking about. You're probably too smart for your own good. And it's making you miserable. Today I'm going to show you 5 specific signs that your intelligence has become your prison. These aren't compliments disguised as problems. These are actual psychological traps that brilliant people fall into. And by the end of this video you'll understand why the smartest people are often the most miserable, and what you can do about it before it's too late. Sign number 1. You cannot accept a compliment without analyzing the person's motive. Someone tells you that you did great work. And instead of just saying thank you, your mind immediately starts working. Why are they saying this? What do they want? Are they being genuine or just polite? Are they trying to manipulate me? Do they actually mean it or are they just following social protocol? This is the curse of pattern recognition. Your brain is so good at seeing beneath surfaces that you cannot take anything at face value. You see through people's words to their potential hidden agendas. And this makes genuine connection almost impossible. I created the Underground Man to show this exact problem. Someone shows him kindness and he cannot accept it. He has to figure out the angle. Has to decode the hidden meaning. And by the time he's finished analyzing, the moment of connection is gone. The person has walked away. And he's left alone with his brilliant analysis that got him absolutely nothing. When you're too intelligent, you turn every interaction into a puzzle to solve. But human connection isn't a puzzle. It's an experience. And you cannot experience something while you're analyzing it. It's like trying to enjoy a meal while you're calculating its nutritional content. You can do one or the other but not both. Here's what this looks like in practice. Your partner says I love you. And instead of feeling it, you start thinking. Do they love me or do they love the idea of me? Is this real love or just chemical attachment? How long will this feeling last? Are they saying this because they mean it or because they want something? And while your brain is doing this sophisticated analysis, you've completely missed the moment. You've turned love into a logic problem. And logic problems don't keep you warm at night. If you recognize this in yourself, here's the hard truth. Your intelligence has made you so good at seeing through things that you've lost the ability to see things. You've become a detective in a world where most people are just trying to connect. And detectives don't have friends. They have suspects. Sign number 2. You can predict how conversations will go so you avoid having them. You're invited to a social gathering. And before you even arrive, you've already played out every possible conversation in your head. You know exactly what people will say. You know how they'll react. You've already anticipated their questions and prepared your answers. And because you've mentally lived through the entire evening before it happens, the actual event feels pointless. You've already experienced it. Why waste your time living through the simulation when you've already run it in your head? This is what happened to me after that literary gathering Humiliation. I became terrified of social situations. But not because I was afraid of people. Because I was too good at predicting them. I could see exactly how every conversation would unfold. Could anticipate every boring question, every predictable response, every tedious social ritual. And once you can see the pattern, participating in it feels like a waste of time. Like watching a movie you've already seen or reading a book where you know the ending. But here's what I learned creating Raskolnikov. When you think you can predict everything, you're not being intelligent. You're being arrogant. Because humans are not algorithms. They surprise you. They break their own patterns. They do things that don't make logical sense. And when you avoid conversations because you think you've already lived them in your head, you're not saving time. You're missing the one thing that makes life worth living. The unpredictable moment when someone shows you something you didn't expect. Raskolnikov thought he could predict everything. Thought he had human nature figured out. Thought he knew exactly how he would feel after committing murder. He had worked it all out logically in his brilliant mind. And then he actually did it. And discovered that reality doesn't care about your predictions. That the human soul has depths your intelligence cannot map. That you can be the smartest person in the room and still be completely wrong about everything that matters. If you're avoiding social situations because you think you already know how they'll go, you're not being smart. You're being scared. Scared that maybe you're not as intelligent as you think. Scared that maybe people will surprise you in ways your brain can't categorize. And that fear is keeping you isolated in a prison you built with your own brilliance. Sign number 3. You need to understand your emotions before you can feel them. Something makes you sad. And instead of just being sad, you immediately start analyzing. Why am I sad? What triggered this? Is this a valid emotion or am I being irrational? What's the evolutionary purpose of this feeling? How long will it last? What's the optimal way to process this? And while you're doing this sophisticated psychological autopsy, the emotion itself disappears. You thought your way out of feeling anything. This is consciousness as disease. This is what I wrote notes from underground to explain. The underground man cannot feel anything directly. Every emotion has to be filtered through 17 layers of analysis. He cannot be simply angry. He has to understand the anger, categorize it, figure out where it came from, decide if it's justified, compare it to other times he's been angry, analyze whether expressing it would be productive. And by the time he's finished this intellectual process, the anger is gone, replaced by exhaustion. The exhaustion of thinking about feeling instead of just feeling. I learned this watching myself after my son Alexei died. He was 3 years old. Epileptic seizure. Gone in minutes. And I had every right to just break down and grieve. But my mind wouldn't let me. It kept trying to understand. Kept trying to find meaning. Kept trying to fit this unbearable pain into some kind of logical framework. And this need to understand prevented me from actually grieving. I was so busy analyzing my sadness that I couldn't just be sad. It took me months to realize that some things cannot be understood, can only be felt. That trying to think your way through grief is like trying to think your way through love. You can do it, but you'll miss the entire experience. Intelligence gives you the tools to dissect emotions, but dissecting something kills it. You cannot analyze your way into happiness. You cannot logic your way into peace. These things require surrender. And surrender is exactly what intelligent people cannot do. Because surrender means admitting that your brain cannot solve everything. That some problems don't have solutions. That sometimes you just have to feel things without understanding them. If you need to understand your emotions before you can feel them, you're not protecting yourself from irrationality. You're protecting yourself from life. Because life is not rational. Love is not rational. Joy is not rational. And if you only allow yourself to feel things that make logical sense, you've eliminated 90% of what makes being human worthwhile. Sign number 4. You see exactly why people fail, but you cannot figure out why you do. You watch other people make terrible decisions and you see it so clearly. You can diagnose their problems in seconds. You know exactly why they're stuck. Why they keep repeating the same mistakes. Why they sabotage themselves. It's obvious to you. But when it comes to your own life, you're blind. You can see everyone else's patterns but not your own. And this creates a special kind of hell where you're simultaneously the smartest observer and the most confused participant. This was me with gambling. I would watch other gamblers at the roulette tables and I could see their delusions perfectly. Could see how they were lying to themselves. How they were chasing losses. How they were convinced that the next spin would be different. I understood the psychology completely. Wrote about it. Analyzed it. Explained it to others. And then I would sit down at the same table and do exactly the same things. Would lose everything. Would promise myself never again. Would be back the next night. My intelligence could see the pattern in others but was completely useless in stopping my own destruction. This is because intelligence is a tool for analyzing external problems. But your own patterns, your own self-deceptions, these exist in a blind spot that your intelligence cannot reach. It's like trying to see your own eyes without a mirror. The tool you use to see cannot see itself. And the smarter you are, the better you are at constructing logical justifications for your own destructive behavior. You can make anything sound reasonable when you're the one making the argument. I showed this with Ivan Karamazov. Brilliant man. Could argue circles around anyone. Could prove anything through pure logic. Could see through every social convention, every religious teaching, every moral system. But he could not see the one thing destroying him. Could not see that his intelligence was eating him alive. That his need to understand everything was preventing him from accepting anything. And by the time he realized this, by the time his own brilliance had backed him into a corner where nothing made sense anymore, it was too late. He went mad. Destroyed by his own mind. If you can diagnose everyone else's problems but remain blind to your own, it's not because your problems are too complex. It's because your intelligence has become a defense mechanism. A way to avoid confronting the parts of yourself that terrify you. It's easier to analyze others than to face yourself. Easier to be the observer than the participant. Easier to understand everyone else's pain than to feel your own. Sign number 5. You have replaced living with preparing to live. You're constantly gathering information, reading books, taking courses, learning skills, optimizing systems, getting ready for the moment when you'll finally start living. But that moment never comes. Because there's always one more thing to learn. One more problem to solve. One more question to answer. And while you're preparing, while you're getting ready, while you're making sure you have perfect understanding before you act, life is passing you by. This is what I did after coming back from Siberia. I thought I needed to understand everything that had happened to me. Needed to process it. Needed to figure out what it all meant before I could move forward. And I spent years in my head. Years analyzing. Years preparing to live instead of actually living. And the tragedy is that all that preparation, all that understanding, it didn't make life any easier when I finally started living it. Because life doesn't care how prepared you are. It happens anyway. The underground man does this to an extreme. He's been preparing his entire life. Preparing to be happy. Preparing to connect. Preparing to act. But he never does. Because he can always find another question that needs answering first. Another problem that needs solving. Another layer of complexity that needs understanding. And he dies in his room. Alone. Having prepared for a life he never lived. Having understood everything except the one thing that mattered. That understanding is not living. That at some point you have to stop analyzing and just act. Even if you're not ready. Even if you don't have all the answers. Even if you might fail. If you're constantly preparing to live, if you're always getting ready for some future moment when everything will finally make sense, you need to hear this. That moment will never come. Understanding is infinite. There will always be more to learn. More to analyze. More to figure out. And if you wait until you've understood everything, you will wait forever. You will die in the waiting room. Never having entered the building. Never having played the game. Never having risked the confusion and mess and beautiful chaos of actually living. Here's what I learned after 60 years of using my intelligence to understand life instead of living it. Intelligence is a gift. But like any gift, it can be misused. You can use a knife to cut food or to cut yourself. Your mind is the same. It can help you see clearly or it can trap you in endless analysis. The difference is not how smart you are. It's whether you can turn your mind off long enough to experience things directly. Whether you can occasionally stop thinking and just be. Whether you can surrender to moments that don't make logical sense but make you feel alive anyway. The smartest thing I ever did was create characters who were destroyed by their own intelligence. Raskolnikov, Ivan, the underground man. Because in writing them, in watching them suffer from the same intellectual traps I suffered from, I finally understood. Intelligence without wisdom is just elaborate self-destruction. Thinking without feeling is just sophisticated numbness. Understanding without living is just a very clever form of death. If you recognized yourself in these 5 signs, you're not broken. You're not defective. You're just too intelligent for your own good. And the solution is not to become less smart. It's to become wise. And wisdom is different from intelligence. Wisdom knows when to think and when to just feel. Knows when to analyze and when to just accept. Knows when to understand and when to just experience. Intelligence is a tool. Wisdom is knowing when to put the tool down.